Hello and welcome to The Big Picture with me, Frank Pereira. Another day, the same scenario. Queues outside banks across the nation after the government's demonetization move. Shutters down or no cash at most ATMs. The primary reason for this, non-availability of 100 rupees denomination notes with the banks and their inability to use 2000 rupee notes in majority of the ATMs. The government has reassured us that there is no need to panic and there was enough cash for the entire nation. But the truth remains there is a major cash crunch and we are all facing the brunt of it. On this edition of The Big Picture, we will discuss how long will it take for the situation to normalize. Joining me on the program today are A.K. Bhattacharya, Editorial Director of the Business Standard. Also with me on the program, Jagdish Shettigar, Economist, Renu, Kohli, Economist and former member, International Monetary Fund and RBI, and Arun Kumar, Professor, retired, Center for Economic Studies and Planning, School of Social Sciences, JNU. Professor, I'd like to start with you. How long do you think that the immediate situation is going to take to normalize?
Well,
I know it's a difficult assessment to make, but I'm just trying to get something out of you.
I think the RBI governor may know or the Ministry of Finance may know, but what people are saying is it may take 7-8 months because you're trying to replace 85% of the currency that has now been demobilized. And if you see the speed at which the currency was being issued, and even assuming that you can print 2 to 3 times more notes, I think it will not be less than 8 to 10 months or possibly 1 year before this currency shortage will go away. Secondly, you see what was required normally, you'll need more than that because there'll be hoarding of currency. People are going to hold on to currency notes because they're not sure when the shortage will go off. So while the situation normalizes later after 8 months or 1 year, immediately you may need much more currency than earlier. So people's habits will also change, in this process, and that can also lead to greater demand for currency. Then we are also hearing that the government may give a part of the salary in cash. Because people are not able to go to the bank and withdraw money. Now, if that begins, then the private sector may also be forced to give in cash, so demand for cash may increase. And therefore, that could also cause greater shortages than normally they would have. So there may be some behavioral changes, some institutional changes. So at this point, it's very uncertain whether it will be taking 8 months, 10 months, 1 year or longer than that for these kind of shortages to be over, for overcoming 85% of the shortage of currency.
Indeed. Ms. Kohli, 86% of India's currency, went up in air on the 8th of November when the Prime Minister said that 500 and 1,000 rupee notes will no longer be legal tender. As far as the RBI is concerned, I just want to get a sense from you. How long is it going to take really, in an ideal situation for all of this currency to come back into the RBI and then come back into the market?
See, I do not have any of my own estimates, but there are various estimates that have been put out by people based upon the printing capacity of the various presses. There are about 4 printing presses, and depending upon the value and number of pieces of rupees 500, 2000, or, assuming that rupees 100 will not be printed, the estimates, like one of the estimates said, it may take up to May 2017. There are other estimates as well. Given the large scale of withdrawals of the monetary base, of course the replenishment or remonetization demand is enormous. The government on its part has said that it would take about, I assume that they mean it would take about 50 days, which is 30th December. But meanwhile, because these estimates are abounding, somebody says 1 year, somebody says 6 months or more, there is also information that the printing started about a month back ago, so it would take up to 3 months. It would not be a bad idea, I think, to dispel the uncertainty on this account and to instill confidence about replacement or the pace of remonetization. It would not be a bad idea by either the government or the RBI or jointly to sort of give some kind of an idea of the timeline or the time span in which this could be done, except that it has been said that they are usually these run in one shift, and currently the capacity has been trebled, and these would be running in 3 shifts. But meanwhile, the cash shortage is also leading to unintended consequences, which is the volume of transactions has come down. People are tending to hoard. So under normal circumstances, you would have a kind of a income velocity, which is the rate at which economic activity and the money changes hands or expands with the money is created with respect to. Cut gaya.
Yeah. No, we can hear you. We can hear you. Go ahead.
So the velocity is not, because of everything has come to a standstill, the velocity is also not picking up.
Indeed. You know, Mr. Bhattacharya, like Professor was saying, it's very difficult to make an assessment as to how long this could take, or, it could take 6 months, it could take a year, it could take maybe a little more than that. But the question being, the longer it takes, do you think that, the people are going to get agitated, they're going to come out onto the streets and, maybe start rioting or start protesting? These are some of the things that people have spoken about as well.
Well, already there are some indications that the popular unrest is reaching a point where it might just get out of hand any day. So I would not rule out, already you have got two chief ministers in Delhi and West Bengal. They have held public rallies wherein they have given Kerala chief minister has talked about it. So when you get these kind of calls that within 3 days you roll it back, people who are obviously inconvenienced are going to sort of make it public, and it might be a little difficult to manage. Therefore, what my fellow panelists said, that is an important thing for the government to come out with public disclosures on the manner in which they intend to replenish this currency. We have done some calculation, and even if all your printing presses work in 3 shifts, it will require at least 108 days. 108 days to replenish these 22 billion notes in value terms.
Yes.
Because there are 500 and 1,000, and they will replace by 2,000 and 500. So if you take, even in the value terms, the number of notes, if they work in 3 shifts, they will require at least 108 days, which is little more than 3 months.
Indeed.
Now, we understand that the work started only 1 month ago. So which means at least 2 more months pain is there. The second point, which complicated the entire exercise, is the lack of standards in our currency notes. Now, these new currency notes apparently have got new different sets, and these cannot be used in the ATMs without recalibration. Now, that has created a further, added to the chaos. Now, if you had actually followed the usual norms of all currency notes being of a certain type, then probably our ATM network would have been able to disburse those notes without any delay. But today you've got around 200,000 ATMs, around 80,000 branches, and the economy was by and large used to a system where you do not need people to visit their banks. So the banks are suddenly sort of faced up to this challenge of taking on these huge queues. And so the banks are also management-wise, I think I find their response is little lacking. And the managing of queues, is also can get it better, because there are 3 kinds of queues there, but there is only 1 queue that you see.
But so, Mr. Bhattacharya, also the shortage of ink, which they have now contracted for, and also paper shortage will be there.
Yes.
Which suddenly was printing. So this 108 days could actually,
absolutely
extend to a multiple number of months.
So let's say in a best case scenario that it will take 2 more months to replenish whatever money has been demonetized. Dr. Shettigar, can the economy really sustain this pain for 2.5 months?
First of all, I don't agree with the estimation made by some of our panelists, because I don't know on what basis say that it will take more than 1 year when you don't have the exact information, since those who are involved in, that is 4 or 5 people, both from the government as well as the RBI, have been preparing for this since the last 6 months. Definitely they would have taken care of that. The real problem is only the logistic problem, as Mr. Bhattacharya pointed out. It is a purely logistic problem, since the ATM machines have to be recalibrated. since it cannot absorb this 2000 rupees note because of the different size, that may take place because only 100 rupees note can accept only to the extent of 2 lakh. So that is a problem, and plus panic reaction. During any period, whether it is inflation or any crisis time, people become panicky. So that is why these long queues. So then that resulted in the, as I think Dr. Kohli pointed out, it is a velocity has come down because psychologically people feel that they should retain the whatever the currency notes they have. In fact, to be very frank, I have also not spent even a single rupee during the last 1 week, whatever the money I have. I'm keeping it, thinking that maybe during the emergency I may require the fund. So that is why I'm not using. So that may be the attitude by many of the people that has resulted in the fall in the velocity of the money. Otherwise, it would have come to the circulation. So main problem is a logistic problem. Not to say that the printing started recently and all, on what basis people are saying. There is no information. As I said that since last 6 months it has been. And as far as the pain, see, it may be, they may not, problem may not be resolved within 50 days as the government promised. It may take a bit longer. But I'm sure that it will be resolved within a couple of months.
Okay, okay. Professor?
And let us also be that as an economist, I'm committed to the cause of the country. We should know that we should not speculate that itself will result in the crisis going off, whether it is whatever the speculation, whether it is the rate of exchange, oil price, or the prices of the goods. When you say that speculate like normal speculators do that, price is likely to go up tomorrow by this much, rate of exchange is likely to become this much, or the oil price is likely to go up. So we are actually putting the oil to the what you call the fire. And as an economist committed to the national interest or the economy, at least we should not contribute unless we are influenced by vested interest.
Okay. You know, Professor, it's a logistical problem. It's a problem that is being caused because people are panicking, but the situation is really not that grave, is what Dr. Shettigar is saying. Do you agree with his assessment?
No, as I said earlier, and the other panelists have also said, the government should give out the information so that people don't have to speculate. People should be told that we had planned for it for so long, we have already printed so much, and this is going to be now distributed very quickly, and therefore the problem will be over in so many days. You know, at this point, everybody is guessing. You know, the newspapers are guessing, other analysts are guessing. You know, they're trying to figure out how much currency was issued in 1 year and what multiple of that can be printed now, because there'll be shortage of ink. Already in the press it has come out that there's shortage of ink, etc. There would be shortage of paper if you're trying to print so much currency in such a short time. And some of this paper is apparently imported. You may not be able to get the paper. So all kinds of problems can be there. So government should come out with a clear stand that this is what is expected, this is what will going to happen. You need not worry about it. Then I think it will be over. But the real problem is, what is the purpose of this demonetization? It was to bring out the stock of hoarded black money. Now, will it achieve that purpose? Because in a sense, what the reports seem to be coming is that even that purpose may not be achieved. Then cash shortage is a subsequent matter. That, you know, two things need to be separated. One is de-hoarding of the black money, counterfeit money going out, and the second is what difficulty the public is having regarding the availability of cash, what business is having, because a lot of the pictures and the reports that are coming of locked shutters, of shops not opening and work not getting done because the people are standing in the queues, so that will have a downturn on the economy. Now, if the downturn in the economy takes place because of lack of demand or because of lack of production, then there will be further consequences of that. So simply printing of notes is only one aspect of it. Getting over the demand for money is only one aspect, but its impact on the economy, its impact on production, and the life of the people who are queuing rather than doing their work or attending to family needs, all this is a very complex thing. So government should come out with a very clear statement as to what the problem is and how they expect to solve it.
So that will, of course, put away quite a few demons in people's minds,
right.
and that will ensure that we know what exactly is happening. That's what you're saying.
That's what the panelists are asking for.
Okay, fair enough. Ms. Kohli, you know what has happened over the last few days is the fact that the government has taken quite a few measures almost on a daily basis. You know, it's more like, coming out with measures on the go, and really these are not pre-planned measures. For instance, yesterday the government announced that farmers can withdraw up to 25,000 rupees from banks, and also if there's a wedding in the family, one person from the family can withdraw 2,50,000 rupees from the bank. So these kind of measures and these kind of announcements only tell us that the government has not planned this right through from the beginning, and these kind of measures are coming up as and when the problems really arise.
I don't know what your question is. Yes, they are coming in, and there are responses, but I think it's probably too late to dwell upon those now, and it is better to see what can be done going forward. And going forward, as the previous panelist, Professor Kumar, said, that it is very important to ensure that both consumption as well as production demand the shocks to them are mitigated to the extent possible. Now, there is a vast informal sector, and it is well known that it primarily, at least, transport sector, wholesale, retail, trade, and vast tracts of agriculture, they also, their production side just runs on informal money, which is a combination of both accounted as well as unaccounted money. Then on the demand side, that is consumption demand side also, it is a cultural practice, I would say. Many Indians tend to transact in cash, and for various reasons. I mean, some people just do not, poorer people just do not have the trust in the banking system. They do not trust their employers for paying their wages online. I mean, at a very micro household level, I can see it. Maid servants don't typically want their wages in the bank account. They would rather take the cash. So, these practices are quite deep-rooted, and it remains to be seen how soon they are able to shift. So that's where the hurt is taking place, whether it is temporary or permanent, or whether it leads to a permanent shift towards online or cashless economy. It's too early to say. But in the interregnum, of course, it casts a huge amount of uncertainty. The worry is here that a supply response in terms of shifting mass-scale, large-scale online transactions, that is not going to come forward unless there is clarity about demand. So if we are looking at the current state of infrastructure in terms of online platforms, e-commerce, and so on, it's just a fraction of what the actual demand could eventually turn out to be. So, when there is an environment of uncertainty and the changing patterns of consumer and producer spending behavior and transacting behavior settle down, and there is clarity, we cannot even look at fresh capacity addition or creation in those dimensions, perhaps. Maybe existing platforms will upscale and they will look at the cost and benefits, and, we are reading that there has been a 100%, 300% jump in card transaction, point of sale and all. So we also do not know as yet. These are existing users who have just upscaled who are doing more transactions online, or fresh ones have come into the line. So, there is a huge environment of uncertainty out here.
There is a lot of uncertainty, and some time needs to be taken to assess really what's happening in the market. But, Mr. Bhattacharya, I want to ask you something. What this demonetization is eventually going to do is that it's going to drain out the current stock of black money. Is going to be a one-time thing. So does that mean that we're going to go ahead and see such kind of a measure periodically, and such kind of a move is going to be taken sometime in the future as well?
Well, remember that this is the first demonetization in this country which has taken place through a notification. Now, the RBI Act has a provision under Section 26(2), under which any series of notes can be delegalized. So, there is a lot of debate whether it is actually demonetization or is it delegalization. So, given this, that the government has chosen to use the RBI Act's provision to declare them illegal, to rob them of their legal standard status, My sense is that yes, theoretically, there are some voices in the media, there are some economists who have recommended this, that it should be done periodically. But given the experience this time, 500 rupee and 1000 rupee note, the numbers are daunting. 23 billion notes were in circulation, and these 23 billion notes, assuming all of them will come back for exchange or being submitted, will have to be exchanged.
Yes.
So, I mean, will the government take another try doing such a Herculean task? I have my own doubts, and the efficacy of this measure in rooting out black money is itself is in doubt, because as a lot of people have rightly commented, that this only tackles the stock, it doesn't address the flow issue. And also within that thing of 14 lakh crore money that is sought to be tackled, addressed, if you say, assume that 20% of the economy is black, all that you likely to tackle is 3.5 lakh crore. So, which is 2% of GDP or so.
Yes.
Now, you have to put everything in context, and given all the numbers, my sense is that the government will be extremely ill-advised to attempt a similar exercise of this nature and create, further inconveniences to the people.
Indeed. Dr. Shettigar, I mean, this is a very valid point that being made by Mr. Bhattacharya, saying that, it's just looking at the stock of the problem really, and it's not curbing the flow really of black money, and there's nothing to say that it won't happen in the future because you're not addressing the root cause of the problem really.
No, that I also agree, because whatever the measure the government initiated is a curative nature, that is tackling the existing black money stock. What really requires is to take the preventive measures, that is how to prevent the generation of the black money. Now in that context, the many issues should be tackled, like even the exporters. Exporters is one of the major channels, or the jewelry or the construction. Construction is one of the major source where the black money getting channeled. So these are the issues the government has tackled, and more than anything else, electoral reform, because unless and until the government tackles this, the funding of the political process, whether it's the parties or the elections, so the black money generation cannot be prevented, because both donors and those who received black money, because they prefer the cash, because we are not that matured democracy like US, where they announce the list of the donors. Here if they announce, they get blackmailed. So we have to go for the electoral reform, about which the Prime Minister had already announced that he has already initiated a debate on the simultaneous election plus state funding. So state funding may be, the big relief as far as the tackling of this black money generation is concerned. Apart from that, as I said, that some of the legal issues, like whether it is relating to the export and import or the payment to the, in the real estate, all these things need to be tackled. Prime Minister recently said that this is not the end of the measure. Some more measures are, will be in the pipeline. So, and with regard to the summit, I think Arun Kumar raised the issue of that the clarification from the government. And what type of clarification required? This could have been announced with the simple gadget notification. The very fact that the Prime Minister had to come to address the nation, that itself showed the seriousness of the issue. And he also said that there would be inconvenience during the transitionary period. And repeatedly the Finance Minister has been assuring the nation. So we should trust. And simply doing the guesswork, at least as far as Professor Arun Kumar was concerned, I thought that he would welcome this whole the world measure. He was the one who wrote a book on the black money, I think 20 years back. He should be happy that at least
since you've taken his name, Dr. Shettigar, since you've taken his name, let me respond to what you have to say.
So in my book, I argued that demonetization would not solve the problem of the flow. It would not even solve the problem of the stock, because you see the black money held in cash form is only 2% of the black wealth.
Yes.
So it is not going to remove the black wealth, even if the entire black cash that is there is suppose dehoarded, then that's only 2% of the total black wealth. Secondly, it will create a lot of problem for the white economy flow. Therefore, the economy will be in a problem. So anyway, 20 years back, I said why this step will not work. So this is a step that I have always said is not going to solve the problem. There are many other things, as Dr. Shettigar was saying, which need to be done, and there are many more things that could be done. So I do not say that this is the step that I would recommend any government to take, because it doesn't solve the problem.
Okay, we've come to the end of the program, sir, but since we have just one lady on the program, I'd like her to have the final say on the program, on this edition of The Big Picture. Ms. Kohli, close the show for us with your closing comments.
Oh, thank you. Just my concluding comment would be to contrast the difference. It's a huge reform, transformation, or whatever we might choose to call it, which touches the life of every citizen. And if we compare in the past 20 years of India's reform history, these have tended to be very gradualistic and hence irreversible. Of course, this is also not a reversible decision. You can't really roll it back. You can only look ahead. But we need to see, it would be an interesting experiment, and one should watch out as to how citizens accept such a huge radical change.
Okay, all right. We'll have to leave to that. It could be an interesting experiment. We'll just have to wait. We'll have to give it time, like the Prime Minister has said, and maybe it just could be a great move. Thank you so much, A.K. Bhattacharya, Jagdish, Shettigar, Renu, Kohli, and Arun Kumar for being with me on this edition of the Big Picture. And thank you for putting things into perspective for us. That's all the time we have. Thank you so much for watching.